It's time for the Brouhaha Sports Show. Brouhaha Sports with award-winning sports writer Dale McKee and co-host Marshall Wood. Talking sports with the legends of the game and famous sports personalities. Brouhaha! Now to Marshall and Dale with tonight's guest.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Brouhaha. Marshall Wood and Dale McKee lined up and ready to go. And Dale, looking at your sideline view, man, we got baseball, a little softball thrown in there. Lots of big, exciting stuff going on this time of year on those diamonds for which they run around.
Yes, sir. It's I got a little golf stuff in there this week too, but I failed to mention something yesterday, but we'll get into the show. I'll mention it later on our wrap up part of it. That
Okay.
I found out today looking at different things.
Oh, you finding out some stuff?
Yeah, I do. I do a little research.
You have to do research. All this stuff is just not.
Do you
there?
think I didn't join this venture without researching you to the fullest?
Yes, I did. As a matter of fact. Yes, I did. Otherwise, you wouldn't have me. But anyway, we'll take that. But anyway, Southern Mississippi, man, lots going on over there. New baseball coach, one, and they're continuing. They're continuing in their line, They're always coming from inside, and they've got that tree that's been going since Pete Taylor days. We've talked about that, but I'm excited about this coach over at USM. He's a great pitching coach, and
he is.
Maybe one of the best in the country, huh?
Yeah, I think one of the reasons that they might have made this move too was the fact that a lot of people were talking to him.
Yeah.
Even on one of the schools, a couple of schools in the state, I heard were talking to him about pitching coach.
Yeah.
So it was. I think Coach Berry's done a wonderful job.
He has. And the guys his predecessors all did too. That's a great program. Truly is. I'm excited about that. But there's a lot of other things going on too. William Carey. We talked to their coach.
Coach Alford, we gave him some good luck, didn't we?
Yes, we did. And they're doing well.
We told him to go win. He went and won. Yeah. He's ready to go now.
Anything else here? Jackson State's in the SWAC deal. They're not only doing good at football under Coach Prime, but now here they are in a baseball tournament, number 4 seed from the Eastern Division. Doing great. Of course, Ole Miss and Mississippi State not so much in baseball.
Now we could close the door and turn out the lights on that one for this year. But you know what? They are. They're great programs, and of course, I always am concerned about everything that comes out new, transfer portal, NIL, stuff like that. I wonder if our Mississippi schools will eventually be affected by that because of the way the Texas schools and the Oklahomas throw around money, and probably the Alabamas and the Auburns and the Floridas. What's your thinking on that?
It already does matter, I think. Now you lump them together, transfer portal. Transfer portal's already had a huge impact on our the big three that we would call here. Ole Miss, State, and Southern. They're very active in the transfer portal. NIL deal, I think, Ole Miss seems to be doing okay. They're holding on to Quentin Judkins. There's got to be some money thrown there. I think it's having an effect. I really do. But you know what? I don't like it, but it is the new normal. We're going to have to deal with it. As far as, I don't know. I don't like it.
Well, I'm just thinking, okay, if you're a 19, 20-year-old college kid and your roommate's getting a check every month for, say, $5,000, and you're getting a check for $500, would that create a little jealousy?
I can see where it could in some.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessary that it would in everybody. Somebody may be so focused on what they're trying to learn how to do and get to the next level. I believe that.
Yeah.
I believe it is a problem. I was going to say something about the money part and forgot what it was. It would have been great, though, Dale. You would have loved it.
Maybe I need to do more research about you and your memory lapses.
Well, Dale, let's talk about tonight's guest. I believe we got a repeat. We've had him some in the past, and is that right?
Yes, sir. We've had Michael Katz. We had him, I think, last April, or we may have had him in the fall.
Yeah.
He's the he writes sports for the Tupelo Journal up there. They call it the Northeast Daily Journal, and it's one of the really fantastic newspapers, or 7-day weekly, 6-day weeklies that are still around. I don't think there's any 7-day weeklies hardly, but anyway, I say weeklies, dailies, but they do they do Monday through Saturday. And so he covers a lot of SEC football, basketball, baseball. He's just gonna give us an update maybe on the SEC and who's hot and who's not hot, and how things gonna go for State and Ole Miss in the future in baseball. And he may even touch on some basketball and baseball for us, because they both made coaching changes as far as in the basketball here in the last year.
Yeah.
So that will. So I think he's going to give us a great insight.
Well, let's find out.
Okay.
I believe you're right. Let's take a break. Dale and I are going to hear from one of our sponsors, and you are too. And after that, we'll be back with tonight's guest, Michael Katz. See you after the break.
Phillips Building Supply in Laurel, your hometown building supply store since 1954. We are locally owned and pride ourselves on helping our customers find exactly what they need. From foundations to roofs to doors and windows, Phillips has it. For tools, hardware, lumber, and plywood, visit Phillips Building Supply.
Welcome to the show, Michael Katz with the Northeast Daily Journal up in Tupelo, Mississippi. How are you doing today, Michael?
I'm doing well. It's the sports season is, knock on wood, slowing down right now. So trying to catch my breath as best I can.
So basically, you're saying it's slowing down for you, right? Maybe not the other sports writers around in the other states.
Well, baseball season is coming to an end. Softball season ended yesterday, so. It's that time of year where things, I think, move a little bit slower for all of us, and I don't think any of us are going to complain too much.
Well, listen, let me ask you something. All right, now, I know when I was doing it on a full-time basis, writing sports, back in the 70s, it was kind of a split day. Now, we didn't have as many, probably, sports as they do now, as far as on the high school level. But I remember going in and working, say, from 6 to about 9:30 or 10, and then having to go back out in the evenings and do something, or maybe take a picture of the afternoon, or sometime even go sell an ad or take a picture for the, I guess, for the women's section. But in telling you that, tell us about your day.
It kind of depends. During the busiest time is really that, I'd say, like February, March, when you've got baseball, you've got both basketballs, and I guess April too, when you've got when spring football starts. When you have all of those things happening at the same time, there's just so much going on. But I'm fortunate enough to do a lot of my work from home. I go out and do my reporting and stuff when I need to, but a lot of it is just sort of, I make a lot of phone calls. I sit at my desk a lot and do a lot of work on kind of spinning things forward, and if there's not something, I guess, live going on, I do a lot of work on trying to get features together and just try to kind of keep make sure that I'm not just working on present day stuff, but spinning it forward a little bit. But it's funny. Like I've never. This job's not so much like a 9 to 5 as it is sort of like you're always sort of on call is the best way that I put it. And that could mean at like 11 p.m. when something happens. It could be 7 a.m. when something happens, and it could be 3 p.m. when there's nothing happening. So it's making sure I always have my phone on me and making sure I'm ready for whenever something happens. And if there isn't something happening, I try to make sure that I'm earning my paycheck.
Yes, I just remember a couple of weeks ago, William Carey was playing in their conference tournament on a Sunday night, and they started the last game about 9 o'clock at night, and I'm going to go to bed about 9 o'clock at night, and I had to, stay up to finish a column that I was writing. And so it was after midnight before I concluded, and So, there are long days in sports writing. Well, listen, tell us, first thing, baseball just ended in Oxford. Just tell us about what your thoughts on the Rebels were compared to, I guess, if everybody else in the world is comparing it. What was the difference between last year and this year?
I think, I don't know if, and maybe I'm guilty of it too, I guess I didn't necessarily at the moment realize just how veteran laden last year's team was. And obviously there were veterans on this year's team, but guys like Tim Elko and Justin Bench and Kevin Graham, I know Ole Miss ended up winning the College World Series last year, but there were a lot of turbulent moments leading up to that. Like, we didn't know if they were going to make it to the tournament at all, and then they obviously end up having one of the all-time great runs. But when things weren't going well, they just had those guys to kind of steady the ship. And I remember talking to them, and they would say, "We're going to be fine. We'll get it figured out. We promise." And they did. And did we know at the time it was going to end up in a College World Series title? Of course not. But there was just always this sort of calming atmosphere around the team, and even when things were really bad. I don't. It's hard to replace guys like that, and not to say that they didn't have leadership or anything like that. I'm not going to say that, but I think that when the waters got tough again, I don't know if they necessarily had those calming the presences maybe that they had the year before. And I think the other thing too is, especially in postseason play, pitching is just so important, and we saw that last year with Dylan DeLucia, rising and becoming a College World Series most outstanding player, and Hunter Elliott, a freshman All-American. One gets drafted and the other, he only makes 2 starts because of arm problems, and now he has Tommy John. So. I think the pitching was a big one too. When you don't have a quote unquote Friday night guy that's going against, the SEC has just so many good Friday night pitchers. If you don't have one that can match up, you're going to be behind the 8 ball a lot. Starting a lot of series 0-1, and when that happens, it's pretty hard to bounce back. And so. I think that just losing those veterans, I think really affected them, and just not having the sort of pitching you need to be successful late in the season. I think those two things it was pretty hard to overcome. I mean, I thought that they'd probably make a regional or something like that. I did not see it spiraling the way it did, but I think it just kind of comes to a point where the team kind of it was what it was, and it's just it just was not as complete as it needed to be. And the SEC is just so good that if you don't have a team that can match whatever people are putting out on the field on a game-to-game basis, you're going to get left behind, even if you're better than what your record looks like.
Well, they started out 14-2 or something like that through the before they got into SEC, and then they went to Jacksonville State on the way to Nashville, and they got clobbered, and they seemed to go from a tailspin from then on. I mean, was there something that happened between that Sunday and that Wednesday?
It's crazy you bring that up because that great start, because the joke was that Ole Miss won the Big Ten because they beat up Maryland, they beat up Minnesota, they beat up Nebraska. I mean, they were just dominating, and Maryland ended up winning, I believe, the Big 12 or the Big Ten regular season title. That just came up a couple days ago. And Ole Miss, I think, won 3 out of 4 games they played against them. So, it's just, I think there's no good way to start an SEC season because. There's everybody's pretty good, but starting with Vanderbilt and Florida, getting swept in those. I mean, when you start off 0-6, that is really hard to come back from. Even 3-3 or 2-4 or something like that, it feels a lot better than 0-6 does, at least from our perspective. Not to say that there was no way they were going to come back from that, but I just think that really put them behind the 8 ball, and again, all the confluence of all the other things I talked about earlier. I think it's just, if maybe they start off a little bit better in SEC play, maybe things don't spiral the way they did, but they did. And, when your next series, when you know that you have Arkansas and LSU and all of these other teams coming up, it's hard to kind of bounce back from 2 straight sweeps to start SEC play. Not an excuse or anything like that, but it really just kind of put them in a pretty bad spot. But it is pretty stunning to see that they win that tournament up in Minnesota and really dominate there for the most part and win all 3 games or whatever they played there. And then that Jacksonville State loss happened, and midweek games are midweek games. They're always a little bit weird. It was a little bit. It kind of made you raise your eyebrow a little bit, but to see it go from there was I don't know if stunning is the word, but it was pretty wild to see.
Well, listen, let's change it. Of course, we got the SEC tournament this week, and unfortunately, both our Mississippi schools are staying at home, probably for the first time in a long time. Who do you think, in watching all the teams that you got to see this year, which one sticks out to you over there in Hoover this week? Any one of them?
Yeah, so I know everybody wants to take LSU. LSU is fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but when you get and their Friday night guy Skeens is absolutely incredible. He's the best pitcher in the country. They're a little bit shakier after him, and so much of SEC tournament play in general is just depth of pitching, and so I think LSU is going to be able to that first game they play is always going to be pretty good, and they're hitting. Their lineup is just superb. But I think as you get further in the week, maybe that it becomes less of a sure thing. And so they've still got a really good chance. But I think when you've got teams like I think Florida is in a really good spot. They've kind of got it figured out. Vanderbilt's had a little. I think they've had some injury issues. Pitching at least, but that rotation is so good, and I always gravitate toward pitching when it comes to postseason stuff. If they're healthy, I think they've got a really, really good shot because if you can throw 2 or 3 guys out there, you are so far ahead of what most teams can put out there. I think Vanderbilt's looking pretty good. And in Arkansas, it's just hard to count them out because they always seem to kind of be in there. Maybe not like as strong of an Arkansas team in terms of depth in the rotation or in the lineup as maybe we've seen in recent years, but they're still really, really good. But for me, it's probably Florida and Vanderbilt, and it's hard not to look at LSU. But I think just pitching-wise, those 2 teams probably have a little bit of an edge.
All right, of course, the softball ended last night, and, they were just kind of break even during the season, but they made a good showing out in Utah. They trounced number 18 Baylor twice, and so, but let's go on past that for just a minute. What about basketball? The new coach, we hadn't talked to you since the new coach arrived, and what's your thoughts about all these players that he's bringing in from the transfer portal? And the ones they've lost, do you think they'll be a little bit more competitive this year than they were last year toward the end of the season?
Yeah, I think it sounds bad, but it's not. It's like hard for them not to be at least a little bit more competitive, and that's no. That team last year played really, really hard, and they were competitive in a lot of those games down the stretch, but they just didn't have the horses necessarily to do what they needed to do down the stretch. This roster is being rebuilt in a way that I think they're going to be kind of interesting. They're really tall. They've got 2 7-footers. One is 7'5", and the other is right around 7. That they brought in big-time shot blockers, and I know college basketball has changed a lot with big men. Maybe isn't as big as it used to be, but I think they're the Chris Beard's always been a defense guy, and I think he's building this team in a way they are going to wall off the paint as best they can, and they're going to make things really, really tough. And when you have coaching changes, you're obviously going to, especially with transfer portal the way it is, you're going to lose guys, and they have lost guys. They've lost a couple guards in Deshaun Ruffin and Amari Abram, and Matthew Morrell is testing the NBA waters, and so this roster is going to look very different. But I think that was to be expected when you bring in a new coach. You're going to change things, and I think he wants to model this team in a different way to an extent. And they've done a nice job of getting in. I don't want to say like quick fixes because I think that's doing a disservice to the players they're bringing in. But you don't, when you're doing a rebuild like this, you don't necessarily have time for true freshmen to develop. You're trying to win right now because it's a win now business, and so when you can bring in veteran guys who fit the way that you want to play, I think you can be competitive earlier than you could, in previous college sports eras in general. So I think they're going to be competitive. They're putting together a nice roster. I think they're going to be interesting to watch for sure.
This is Marshall, Michael. I want to change gears on you just a little bit. I know it hadn't been too long ago that the Rebels had their spring game up there, and a lot of talk about the quarterback room and all that kind of thing. Just kind of wanted to cast this out there a little bit and see. We got the 3 quarterbacks up there. We talk about the kid that came in from Oklahoma State, of course, Dart, and then again the Howard kid from LSU. What do you feel? What do you feel about that quarterback room, and who may go, who may stay? May they all stay, or what do you think?
For me, just from what we heard in the spring, and obviously, you take everything with a grain of salt in the spring in general, and then also just smoke screens and all that kind of stuff. But Jackson Dart had an amazing spring by all accounts. I think he turned the ball over once in all the practices and in the game, and he just by all accounts he just looked like a different guy. And I think that's to be expected with a year in the offense. He's a lot more comfortable, but iron does sharpen iron, and by all accounts the competition was good for him, and he took it in stride, and it really it's bringing out the best in everyone there. And I understand that Spencer Sanders from Oklahoma State is a 4-year starter, and it's hard to imagine a guy coming to a school with the experience that he has and just being like, oh yeah, I'm going to be the backup. I don't think he came in with that expectation, but it's hard for me to not see Jackson Dart being the guy, just because one, he was criticized a lot, and he had some not so great games last year, but overall he was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
He threw for almost 3,000 yards, 20 touchdowns. The interceptions were a little bit of a problem, but he's also he ran the ball, and this natural progression. If we're looking at how guys improve. It's hard to not imagine that he would be significantly better in 2023. And so, for me, it's hard to not see Dart being the guy. That being said, you never really know what's happening behind the scenes. And when you bring in guys the way they did, it does make you kind of second-guess things. But, the Walker Howard one always made sense because they lost out on their big quarterback recruit in their last high school class. He ended up signing with Texas A&M. So almost needed a talented young guy. And so basically when you bring in Howard, you kind of fill in that gap of the young guy who can be ready whenever you need him to be, down the line. He can be the quarterback of the future. Okay. But and he's, again, he had a great spring too. He is a tremendous natural passer. I think he's going to be a really nice player. But you don't need him to be ready right now.
Right.
The other guys, really, I think it comes down to those two. But again, Dart had a great spring. He has the edge from the perspective of he's been in the offense and he's played games. He started 12 games for Ole Miss last year, played in all 13, I believe. And so, It's hard for me not to see him being the guy, but I think Spencer Sanders is going to give it everything he's got, and at the very worst. And Lane has brought this up. You'd rather have a quarterback room with 3 really good guys than 3 mediocre guys.
I'm going to ask you one more question. We're about out of time. This is going to be the final question. The new DC, Pete Golding. What do you think? Have you gotten to know him, spend some time with him? He making a big impact up there in the recruiting trail. Talk about your thoughts on the new DC.
So we have not met with him yet. Lane kind of does the same thing that Nick Saban does, and that I think we only really talk to coordinators once or twice a year. It's in fall ball, and then sometimes in the bowl season, depending on the bowl game. They like to have one voice for the program, and it's a Saban thing, and Lane has kind of picked that up as well. But by all accounts, Golding has made a big difference, not just on the recruiting trail, but this defense is going to look a lot different schematically. I think they're bringing in a different type of player to sort of do what they want to do. I mean, the last couple of years they played this 2 linebacker set, and they got gashed against the run a lot, and that really became evident down the stretch of the season where they gave up. There were a couple 300-yard rushing games down the stretch. There were I think like 4 200-yard rushing games by opposing teams down the stretch, and it became obvious late in the season that that defense just wasn't going to work. And so you bring in Pete Golding, a guy who I know that there have been some people who have Alabama fans didn't always love him, but he had really good defenses for the most part. I know talent is a big part of that, but I think that's doing a disservice to the scheme. Yeah. And he's generally thought of as one of the really good X's and O's guys, and players seemed really excited about the scheme, and obviously it's a learning process, and they've got some time to figure out what that's going to look like in terms of the different fronts and the formations and all that kind of stuff. But I think there is something to be said for when you bring in a guy who is a well-known name. I think that gets players excited, and it sounds like players have been excited.
Well, good deal. Well, listen, we're out of time for tonight. This segment tonight, Michael. We sure do. Dale and I appreciate so much you taking time to be with us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate
Absolutely.
you again.
Thank you,
Y'all missing Parrish?
Yep.
Okay.
What's that?
No, I was going to ask. A lot of our people down this way know Michael Parrish offered, and is the Daily Journal missing Parrish?
It's different. He was an institution. But he's got to do what was best for him. So we're making it work. But it is definitely a different era in the Daily Journal for sure.
Well, again, thank you for being on our show.
Absolutely, thank you guys.
Okay, we're going to take a break to hear from our sponsor, and then Dale and I will be back with the final segment of tonight's Brouhaha right after the break.
Phillips Building Supply in Laurel, your hometown building supply store since 1954. We are locally owned and pride ourselves on helping our customers find exactly what they need. From foundations to roofs to doors and windows, Phillips has it. For tools, hardware, lumber, and plywood, visit Phillips Building Supply.
Welcome back, everybody, to tonight's final segment of the Brouhaha. Dale, you got another good one. Michael, he knows his stuff about those Ole Miss Rebels. Of course, I guess that's what he gets paid to do.
Yes, I think he gives us great insight when we call him.
He does. California boy. He went to school at Southern Cal, didn't he?
You did.
All right.
And he's actually in the springtime he teaches a course on journalism up at the Ole Miss Journalism School.
Oh,
so he must be pretty sharp for make him a teacher too.
Yeah. Well, you teach, don't you? You're pretty smart. You a teacher, ain't you? Hey, like that English, ain't you? Ain't you a teacher, Dale?
Are you trying to put me on the spot?
No, I don't want to. Let's just listen. We're gonna back up. Dale, that was a great interview tonight. Anything else you want to share with us?
No, I think we're ready to go. You want me to say goodbye, Dale?
No. We're not through. We got time to burn. Dale, where you stand on transgender athletes?
I think what you're born as is the way you need to compete.
So you're not for this switching business?
No, but it seems like more guys are wanting to go to the other side so they can compete in the female sports. That's not. I don't think that's fair to the girls.
Okay, a transgender female is a biological male. That's right. I had to look that up. I was trying to educate myself, and I didn't know what that meant. But a transgender female is a biological male. And so the transgender female athletes, we read a lot about their successes. The swimmer, for example, and some wrestlers. But now
Wrestlers?
out in Texas,
Okay.
High school and things like this. Now a transgender male is a biological female. How many of them we don't read a lot about that, do we?
Sometimes you do.
Do we?
Well, I say.
Can you name?
No, I can't name. I don't really keep up with it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Most of it's happening outside of my comfort area, outside my area.
You got a comfort zone, Dale?
Well, yeah, the South.
You and I have seen females. I'm not talking about transgender this or transgender that. We've competed at Wayne County High School in football against females. Are you aware of that?
I think I remember Laurel having a female running back one year.
They did.
Yeah.
When we started this great football run back around 2002 or 2, we went up there and faced the number 1 green Vicksburg Gators that year in the Red Carpet Bowl. They had a female kicker.
They did.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't mind the females going out and playing.
Really?
No, I don't mind that. I mean, if they can find a spot on the football team. Now, I hope I don't get myself in trouble here, but that's probably about the only sport I would say you could do that in.
Do what in?
Is maybe let a female kick.
Hattiesburg had one too, by the way.
Yeah, they had a really good one.
Yeah,
too.
they did.
And South Jones had one year.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that baseball, softball. It seems like if you like baseball, you want to play softball. Girls basketball, boys basketball. I'm just saying soccer, boys and girls.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got your different sports there.
What about Title IX? Doesn't that mess everything up? From a title, how do you comply?
Well, you can't. I don't think you can deny anybody from going out for a sport. But I just know that most high schools, the last paragraph is when a coach is picking a team, that the coach has the decision on who makes the team.
Oh, okay.
And that's in the Title IX documents.
Okay. So most people don't realize, probably, I say most, I don't know, Title IX, and I could be well off base, but that was a governmental edict from the United States of America that would have required, if not equal, very close funding or academic opportunities for male and female.
Sure, that's why you have the different sports. I remember a lot of schools back. I know we didn't do it in Wayne County because we had girls basketball back when they played the 3-on-3 and the, and for a time they had a rover that could go up and down. But you go to the big schools back at that time, like a Hattiesburg or Laurel Marita, they didn't have girls basketball. They just played guys basketball.
Really?
And so that was brought in for them, basically, to give them an opportunity. You didn't have softball in schools, and then that brought that in.
Well, volleyball, soccer, women's soccer, a lot of
Well,
that.
I think around in our area, volleyball was brought in because slow pitch softball was being phased out by the Mississippi High School Association.
Yeah. Okay.
And so we had to, we wanted those girls in the fall to have a sport if they wanted to play, and that's why volleyball was brought in.
Okay. Well, look, Dale, I'm having a mighty good time.
Did I answer your questions correctly? Because you put me on the spot here, and I hope I didn't embarrass myself.
You didn't embarrass yourself. You embarrassed me, but you didn't. You didn't embarrass yourself. No, Dale, you did a great job, and that was a tough question. That's a hot topic, in today. And you handled that like a champ.
I did.
Yeah, you didn't offend anybody.
Oh, no, I'm not. I'm not a Kenny Odom.
Man, they were one of them.
Huh?
They were one of them. Maybe we can get him on the show.
Hey,
You heard it, dog. You heard it, K-Dog. You out there listening?
He would be a great one now.
On that happy note and the exciting prospects of future guests, I think we've come to the point in the show where it's time to say goodbye, Dale.
Already? We just got here.
Already?
We just got here.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Goodbye, Dale.
Goodbye, Dale, and we'll see you next week. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Hold on a minute. My bad. I'm embarrassing myself. Remember that you can follow us on YouTube for all of our past shows where we got them cataloged for you, and our Facebook page, the Brouhaha, and the YouTube channel's Brouhaha as well. Dale's already said what time it is, so I'm going to say goodbye, everybody. We'll see you next week for more of the Brouhaha. Take us out of here, Jamie.
You've been listening to the Brouhaha with Dale McKee and Marshall Wood. Heard Tuesday evening, 6 p.m. on WABO. For more of the Brouhaha, follow us during the week on Facebook and WABO.